ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನಾನು ರಾಜೇಶ್ ಎಸ್ ರಾಜಘಟ್ಟ, ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್, ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್, ದೊಡ್ಡಬಳ್ಳಾಪುರ. Welcome back to this fifth session on ratio analysis, and in this session you are going to have some conceptual knowledge about solvency ratios and investment ratios. The fourth broad category of classification of accounting ratios is solvency ratios or leverage ratios. While liquidity ratios measures the short-term solvency, short-term ability of the concern in meeting short-term obligations of the concern, these solvency ratios or leverage ratios measures the capacity of the company or business concern in meeting its long-term obligations. Leverage or solvency ratios are used to assess the long-term solvency of a business in meeting its long-term obligations. These ratios indicate the extent to which the firm has financed its resources by borrowing from outsiders. That is, how much funds have been financed by owners and by outsiders will be determined by these leverage ratios. Leverage ratios reflect the financial risk exposure of the firm. If outsiders' capital is more in the firm than owner's capital, it amounts to higher financial risk to the concern, because the outsiders will have their own impact, their own say in all decision-making activities of the concern to protect their own interests. In other words, leverage ratios are the ratios which measure the relative interests of the owners and outsiders in the capital structure of an enterprise and the ability of the firm in managing its long-term obligations. So in this sense, we can also state these ratios as capital structure ratios. We know capital structure means the makeup, the structure of total capitalization of a company. How much capital has been invested by the owners in the form of equity shares, preference shares, reserves and surplus, etc., and how much capital has been invested in the business by outsiders like debenture holders, long-term financial institutions, etc. ದೀರ್ಘಕಾಲೀನ ಸಾಲ ಮರುಪಾವತಿ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಅಥವಾ ಸನ್ನೆಯ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ಅಂತ ಇವುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. ಇವುಗಳು ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗೆ ತಾನು ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ದೀರ್ಘಕಾಲೀನ ಸಾಲಗಳನ್ನು ಮರುಪಾವತಿಸುವ ಯೋಗ್ಯತೆಯನ್ನು ಅಳೆಯಲು ಬಳಸಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಈ ಸನ್ನೆಯ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ದೀರ್ಘಕಾಲೀನ ಮರುಪಾವತಿ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಹ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಂಡವಾಳವನ್ನು ಹೂಡಲಾಗಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ವಾರಸುದಾರರು ಅಥವಾ ಓನರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಬಂಡವಾಳವನ್ನು ಹೂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸಲು ಸಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅನುಪಾತಗಳನ್ನು ಬಳಸಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಬಂಡವಾಳ ರಚನೆಯ ಅನುಪಾತಗಳು ಅಂತ ಸಹ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಬಂಡವಾಳ ರಚನೆಯು ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಬಂಡವಾಳೀಕರಣವು ಯಾವ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸುತ್ತದೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನೀವು ಹಣಕಾಸು ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆ ಎಂಬ ಕೋರ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿತಿರುತ್ತೀರಿ. Important solvency ratios include debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio, fixed assets to proprietors funds ratio, and capital gearing ratio. The first solvency ratio is debt equity ratio, also called external internal equity ratio. This ratio establishes the quantitative relationship between outsiders' contribution and owners' contribution into the total capitalization of a business. In simple, the debt equity ratio expresses the quantitative relationship between debt and equity. ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಒಟ್ಟು ಬಂಡವಾಳದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರಗಡೆಯವರ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಹಾಗೂ ಮಾಲೀಕರ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ಅಳೆಯಲು ಈ ಒಂದು ಡೆಬ್ಟ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ರೇಷಿಯೋವನ್ನು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. The debt equity ratio is expressed as follows: external equities divided by internal equities, or debt divided by equity, or outsiders funds divided by shareholders funds, where debt or external equities means debenture capital and other long-term loans taken by the firm. Internal equities are equity or shareholders funds equals to equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus. From this sum we have to subtract fictitious assets and non-business assets. Some experts on the subject are of the opinion that current liabilities must also be part of external equities. In such a case, debt will mean debentures plus other long-term loans plus current liabilities. They are of the opinion that current liabilities are also funded by outside parties. Since the debt equity ratio is a long-term solvency ratio, debt must include long-term liabilities only. However, depending upon the requirements of the given problem, you may add current liabilities into debt. The debt equity ratio measures the proportion of outsiders' stake claim in the business compared to insiders' claim. Excessive dependency on outside funds may create financial problems, as I said, financial risk. This ratio is very useful to assess the soundness of long-term financial position of the firm, that is, the capacity of the firm in paying off its long-term dues. It also indicates the extent to which the firm depends upon outsiders for its existence and continuance. A low debt equity ratio implies the use of more equity than debt. That is, a low debt equity ratio states that the company is using more owners' funds than outsiders' funds, and there is lower financial risk. Therefore, it is advisable to keep debt proportion lower than owners' funds. As a rule of thumb, as a tradition, a 2:3 debt equity ratio is considered as ideal. If 3 rupees are equity, then you can extend to take loan up to rupees 2. It is only a measure of ideal ratio, not applicable to all companies or all business organization. One simple problem on debt equity ratio. From the following, calculate debt equity ratio. Given information: equity share capital rupees 8 lakhs, debenture capital rupees 5 lakhs, general reserve rupees 4 lakhs, accumulated profits rupees 4 lakh 50,000, sundry creditors rupees 1 lakh, outstanding expenses rupees 50,000, other long-term loans rupees 2 lakhs. The formula for calculating debt equity ratio is given as external equities divided by internal equities. From the given information, first find out what are all the items which comes under external equities and other items which fall under internal equities. External equities are debt equals to debenture capital plus long-term loans. In the problem, debenture capital is given as 5 lakhs and other long-term loans rupees 2 lakhs. So substitute those values. 5 lakhs plus 2 lakhs equals to rupees 7 lakhs. Then internal equities. From the given problem, we have only 3 items: equity capital, general reserves, and accumulated profits. Substituting the values: rupees 8 lakhs equity capital, rupees 4 lakhs general reserve, plus accumulated profits rupees 4 lakh 50,000. It amounts to rupees 16 lakh 50,000. Now substitute the values of external equities and internal equities into debt equity ratio, that is rupees 7 lakhs divided by rupees 16 lakh 50,000. We get 0.42:1. That means for every rupee of shareholders' funds, there is 42 paise of outsiders' funds. When current liabilities are also considered as external equities, then the ratio will be debt equity ratio equals to rupees 7 lakhs, that is debenture capital plus other long term loans, plus creditors is given. It falls under the nature of current liability, therefore 1 lakh is added. Then outstanding expenses is given rupees 50,000. Adding them up, 7 lakh plus 1 lakh plus 50,000, 8 lakh 50,000 divided by 16 lakh 50,000, which amounts to 0.515:1. Next solvency ratio is proprietary ratio. It is also known as net worth to total assets ratio or equity ratio. This ratio establishes the quantitative relationship between owners' funds, that is net worth, shareholders' funds, to total assets employed in the business. It indicates the strength of financial soundness and financial base of the concern. If owners' funds are more, then it gives a very good cushion to outsiders to lend loans and advances to the company, and company can survive on its own. This ratio is calculated as shareholders' funds divided by total assets. Shareholders' funds, we have already know what it includes: equity share capital plus preference share capital plus reserves and surplus minus fictitious assets and minus non-business assets. Total assets, fixed assets plus current assets. Out of this, we have to subtract fictitious assets and non-business assets. The following points must be kept in mind while calculating proprietary ratio. If there are specific reserves for specific purposes, those reserves should be excluded from shareholders' funds. And in case of assets, intangible assets like goodwill, patents, trademarks, copyrights, etc., if market values are available, then we should take into consideration market value and not book value. The higher the proprietary ratio, the more profitable it is for the long-term investors and creditors. To owners, a high proprietary ratio is safe from financial risk point of view. The greater the ratio, the larger is the cushion of protection for the firm's present as well as prospective investors. Third solvency ratio is fixed assets to proprietors funds ratio. This ratio establishes the quantitative relationship between fixed assets and proprietors funds. It indicates the proportion of owners funds invested in fixed assets. How much owners funds have been invested in fixed assets can be known from calculating this ratio, fixed assets to proprietors funds ratio. It is given as net fixed assets divided by shareholders funds. A higher fixed assets proportion to shareholders funds is an indication of long-term financial soundness of the firm. Last one solvency ratio is capital gearing ratio. It refers to the quantitative relationship between fixed charge bearing, fixed cost bearing capital funds and variable charge bearing capital funds. The fixed cost bearing capital funds include funds raised through debentures, loans, preference share capital, etc., on which the company has to pay fixed interest or fixed dividend, irrespective of its profits. The variable charge bearing capital funds consists of equity share capital and reserves and surplus, assuming reserves and surplus are also available for capital investment as flowback. On equity share capital, no fixed returns will be paid, no fixed dividend will be paid. It depends upon the profits available to equity shareholders and decision of the board of directors whether to pay dividends or not. It will all depend upon the board of directors. Therefore, equity share capital will be included under variable charge bearing capital. The ratio is expressed as fixed charge bearing capital funds divided by equity shareholders funds. If the capital gearing ratio is more than 1, the capital structure is said to be highly geared, cautioning increased financial risk to investors, that is both owners and long-term creditors, because the company has already crossed the safety mark while taking funds from outsiders. Outsiders, while investing in such companies, must be very careful because they do not have a cushion for their funds in the future. Similarly, owners, that is the prospective investors in equity share capital, must also be careful because they are inviting financial risk by investing in such companies. On the other hand, if the ratio is lesser than 1, the capital structure of the company is said to be low geared and financially safe, where outsiders funds will be lower and equity shareholders funds, that is owners funds, will be higher than outsiders funds. Let us work out some problems on these ratios after finishing this session. In the next session, we can work out some problems. The fifth and last category of classification of accounting ratios is investment ratios. Investment ratios are calculated to measure the market strength of the company's performance. The investors and financial analysts are very much interested in market price of shares on the stock exchanges. This analysis helps the present as well as prospective investors in deciding whether the business offers a profitable and safe investment opportunity or not. ಹೂಡಿಕೆದಾರರಿಗೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಹೂಡಿಕೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಲಾಭದಾಯಕತೆ ಇದೆಯೇ ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲವೇ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ಅಳೆಯಲು ಈ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋಸನ್ನು ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿಯಲಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಹೂಡಿಕೆದಾರರಿಗೂ ಹಾಗೂ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೂಡಿಕೆ ಮಾಡಲು ಬಯಸುತ್ತಿರುವ ಹೂಡಿಕೆದಾರರಿಗೂ ಈ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋಸು ದಿಕ್ಸೂಚಿಗಳನ್ನು ನೀಡಲಿದೆ. The important ratios under this category include earnings per share, or popularly known as EPS, dividend payout ratio or simply payout ratio, yield ratio or dividend yield ratio, price earning ratio or popularly called as PE ratio, and interest coverage ratio. Let us move on to earnings per share. EPS is the residual income available to equity shareholders per share after paying all expenses and meeting all commitments like interest on debentures, interest on long-term loans, income tax, and distribution of dividends to preference shareholders. Whatever profit is available remains with the company after meeting all these commitments will be available to equity shareholders. EPS acts as an indicator of profitability from equity shareholders' point of view. It is calculated as net profit after interest, tax and preference dividend divided by number of equity shares. Note in the denominator it is number of equity shares. Or we can also say it as profits available to equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares. Remember, you might have worked out problems on this while you are studying financial management subject. It helps in determining the market value of a company's shares and the capacity of the company to pay dividend to its owners. So payment of dividend and portion of payment of dividend will be determined on the basis of EPS, earnings per share. Next investment ratio is dividend payout ratio or payout ratio. It measures the proportion of EPS which are distributed among the equity shareholders as dividend. Not all EPS, earnings per share, will be distributed among shareholders. Something will be retained. You might have studied in dividend decision chapter again under financial management that it is the decision of the board of directors to whether to distribute dividends or retain all the earnings within the company, or if it wants to distribute dividends, how much it has to distribute, that these things will be decided by the board of directors. Therefore, not all EPS will be distributed as dividend among shareholders. Only a portion, if decided so, only a portion will be distributed as dividend among equity shareholders. How much dividend has been distributed out of EPS will be computed by calculating this ratio. Payout ratio is given as dividend per equity share, dividend distributed per equity share divided by earnings per share into 100. You may express it in percentage or as a pure ratio. The dividend payout ratio shows how much of residual income are retained in the business for future requirements after distributing dividends to equity shareholders. Low dividend payout may affect the market value of shares and sentiments of shareholders of the firm, whereas a high payout ratio may adversely affect the future financial requirements of the firm when there are profitable investment opportunities. If the company has not retained its profits, whenever there is profitable opportunities, investment opportunities, then the company has to issue or depend upon outsiders funds. Instead of, if it has retained some profits as retained earnings, it can capitalize those retained earnings if required. A well-planned dividend policy may help the concern to maintain proper balance while distributing. Next investment ratio is yield ratio. It establishes the quantitative relationship between a dividend declared per equity share and its market price. It is calculated as follows: dividend per equity share divided by market price per equity share. You know that face value of equity share is different from market price of that equity share. Normally, market price of equity share will be more than its face value. Dividend will be declared on face value and not on market value. Therefore, how much has been earned as dividend on actual investment on that particular equity share can be computed by calculating this ratio. Let us work out a problem on yield ratio. A company declared a dividend at 20% on its shares of paid up value rupees 10. Market value of the share is rupees 25. Find the dividend yield ratio. Dividend yield ratio formula: dividend per equity share divided by market price per equity share into 100. Here dividend per equity share is not given, but it is given in percentage of the paid up value. Therefore, dividend per share equals to paid up value rupees 10 into 20% will be equal to rupees 2. Keep in mind, dividend always will be computed on paid up value or face value of the share issued. Therefore, dividend yield ratio equals to rupees 2 dividend divided by market price rupees 25 into 100 equals to 8%. Next ratio, investment ratio, is price earning ratio or PE ratio. It has been considered as an important criterion for making investment decisions. This ratio, along with the dividend payout ratio, indicates the market estimates or future prospects of a company's share prices. It measures the quantitative relationship between market price of an equity share and the EPS of such share. It is calculated as market price per equity share divided by earnings per share. Generally, an improving price earning ratio over a period of time represents a better growth prospects in the future on the present investment in equity shares. Next investment ratio is interest coverage ratio. Some authors include this ratio under profitability ratios. It indicates the extent to which earnings can cover the fixed interest charges payable on long-term fixed interest bearing securities. It tells us how many times interest can be paid out of earnings of a particular year. It serves as a yardstick standard to long-term creditors while investing their funds in the concern. They can come to know whether the business firm is in a position to pay their interest regularly or not out of its profits. The higher the ratio, higher the interest coverage ratio, greater is the ability of the firm in paying regular fixed interest charges on long-term liabilities and vice versa. It is calculated as net profit before interest and tax, or we may call it as operating profit or PBIT, divided by interest on long-term debts. Let us work out a problem on the ratios discussed above. Compute earnings per share, price earning ratio, dividend payout ratio, yield ratio, and interest coverage ratio from the following details. Net profit before interest and tax rupees 50,000, provision for tax rupees 12,000, preference dividends payable rupees 6,000, number of equity shares 4,000, dividend declared per equity share rupees 2.9, market price per equity share rupees 18, interest payable on debentures rupees 3,000. Let us solve or work out the problem. First ratio asked is earnings per share. It is given as net profit after tax minus preference dividend divided by number of equity shares, or it can also be the profits available to equity shareholders divided by number of equity shares, or it can also be net profit before interest and tax minus interest minus tax minus preference dividend divided by number of equity shares. Therefore, in this problem, net profit before interest and tax is given. We can use the formula like this: rupees 50,000 net profit before interest and tax minus interest rupees 3,000 minus tax rupees 12,000 minus preference dividend given rupees 6,000 divided by 4,000 shares. Simplifying that, we get rupees 29,000 divided by 4,000 shares. It works out to rupees 7.25 per equity share. So earning per share is 7 rupees 25 paise per share. Price earning ratio, next one, market price per equity share divided by earnings per share. Market price per share is given in the problem as rupees 18. 7.25 is the earnings per share computed above. It works out to 2.483 per share. Next is dividend payout ratio. It is given as dividend per equity share divided by EPS. Dividend declared by the firm on equity share is given in the problem as 2.9 rupees. EPS is 7.25 into 100 equals to 40%. It means out of 7.25 rupees EPS, earnings per share, only 40% is distributed among shareholders as dividend. Next is dividend yield ratio equals to dividend declared per equity share divided by market price per equity share into 100. Dividend per equity share is given in the problem. Market price per equity share is also given in the problem. Substitute them. Rupees 2.9 divided by rupees 18 into 100, 16.11%. So on 18 rupees investment, dividend declared is 2.9 only. It works out to 16%, 16.11%. Interest coverage ratio. It is given as net profit before interest and tax divided by interest payable. Net profit before interest and tax is given as rupees 50,000. Interest payable is rupees 3,000. Dividing 50,000 by 3,000, it works out to 16.66 times or 16.67 times. Let us stop here. We can meet in next session where we are going to work out some comprehensive problems involving more number of different ratios. Thank you. Signing out, Rajesh S. Rajgatta.